One of my favorite Bible verses is Romans 8:28, which tells me that everything, the good, the bad, the ugly, everything works together for good to them that love God, to them who are the called according to God's purpose. It's one of my top 7 Bible verses, one of my anchor scriptures. Even till today, I say it to myself regularly when things don't go well. Even when they go well, I know everything is working for my good, no matter what it is.
That's the voice of a man who lived the verse, who was orphaned in Nigeria, but was able to eventually make his way to the United States, where he is now a psychiatrist. That's Oluwole Babatunde, and he is my guest on this episode of the Practical Faith Academy podcast. I'll ask Babatunde about his journey through extremely difficult childhood and adolescent circumstances, how those experiences changed him, and how he's sharing how to overcome difficulties in his new book, Adapt and Advance. I'm Cecil Taylor of Cecil Taylor Ministries, teaching Christians how to live a 7-day practical faith. Everything I do, whether blogs, books, videos, or this podcast, is about taking our faith from Sunday into the rest of the week, applying scripture and faith to life situations. I'm also interested in children and parents, as I've written a book entitled Unison Parenting, the Comprehensive Guide to Navigating Christian Parenthood with One Voice. Find more about the book in the podcast notes, as well as much more about my overall ministry and how it can help you. In the Practical Faith Academy podcast, I add other voices with other life experiences to understand how they put faith into practice. Please subscribe to my podcast according to your listening platform's instructions. I welcome your comments and your sharing of this podcast with others. We now turn to our guest today, Dr. Oluwole Babatunde. His story is incredible and his message is powerful. You can expect to take away inspiration, practical strategies, and hope that you too can overcome adversity with purpose. Wole, thank you for joining me on the Practical Faith Academy podcast.
Thank you so much, Cecil. This is extremely exciting for me to always join podcasts, talk about myself, talk about lessons that people can pick from my life to improve their own lives too. And I'm always excited to be on podcasts like this. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's going to be a great time. Thank you. Well, one thing I'd like to start with, because I do have a mission to teach Christians how to live a 7-day practical faith, is that when I say 7-day practical faith, what does that mean to you?
Practical faith, it's a situation whereby we're able to apply our faith into every facet of our life on a daily basis. And what that means for me is when I'm at my job, which is not primarily a faith-based job, I should be able to practicalize my faith in whatever I do, even without mentioning the name of my faith. When I'm relaxing with family, my faith should be the foundation of the things that we do. Even when I'm exercising, playing with friends, playing with kids, all of that should have the foundation of my faith in every single thing I do, so that faith does not become something we do once in a week when we go to faith houses or churches or wherever we believe in. Rather, it should be something that shows up in every single facet of our lives in an intentional way.
I really like that, Wole, because I know for myself, I used to be in business. I had people who I managed, and I didn't go around talking a lot about being a Christian. It was a very multicultural environment, multi-religious environment. And yet at the same time, I felt like people knew my context. They knew that I was operating with a certain ethic and a certain faith. And I didn't mind talking about, this funny thing happened at church on Sunday or something like that, to where they knew. And I think you're saying something similar, is that our faith, when we're applying it, it doesn't mean we have to wave a flag all the time, but that we are showing it by our actions and our context.
That's the key word, showing it by our action and by the key context of what we live our life. The foundation is there. And people can see the fruit even without we necessarily talking specifically that, oh, I'm doing this because of my faith, or I'm doing that because of my faith. Rather, they could see that whatever you are doing is genuinely out of love, out of compassion, out of a willingness to be a blessing to other people just because of the foundation of faith on which we are standing.
I have a couple of questions about your incredible journey from orphan status in Nigeria to becoming a psychiatrist in the United States. And first, do you ever look back and think, really, how did I get here?
I tell people it seems to me like I've just been running, running away from the trauma of childhood, running away, from the very difficult challenges that I've been through growing up. Looking back now, I would say I'm grateful that I was running from something that was not good. And that experience very early in life is serving me today because for right now, it just gives me the energy to keep moving no matter what comes my way, whether good or bad. I'm able to continue to make meaning, which is one of the key things I discussed in my book. The first few chapters was on making meaning from the things we are going through, because until we're able to make meaning of it, of what does all this mean? At times it's difficult for us to go forward. So when we're able to make meaning, look at the big picture of everything, like, don't focus on just this 1 year and its problems. Focus on the bigger picture, on how you can use this 1 year to be a blessing to people that really, really need it. So that keeps me going. So I'm glad where I am, but part of it is I was running from the trauma of childhood so hard, like I found myself here.
Well, let's talk about that trauma a little bit. You lost your mother at age 7 and your father at
Mm-hmm.
age 13. And fortunately, you did have others who stepped in as mother and father figures, but surely it was a difficult adolescence. So, how did those early experiences shape your view of pain, faith, and purpose?
I felt my very first book needs to reflect the fact that faith played a big role in my journey. Um, I wouldn't say everything is about faith, but it played a foundational role for me. Before I lost my mom, I still have recollections of going to church. I have recollections of as early as 7 being in the Royal Ambassadors for Baptist Church then in Nigeria. That was the church my parents were attending, and the theme of Royal Ambassador is about service, serving people in the community and all of that. So very early in my life, I had service ingrained, serving the community ingrained inside of me. The same thing when I lost my dad at the age of 13. I received Christ at 11, at least intentionally. It was no longer the faith of my parents. But at least I took a decision. I stepped on forward one day in a fellowship and decided to accept Jesus into my life. So putting all of that together, by the time I lost my dad, I was already a Christian, some, and had my own personal foundation in the faith. So when the winds of life came down like crushing on me and things started going wrong, everything you can imagine went wrong. I had my faith to hold on to. Um, One thing I always say, it doesn't mean having faith doesn't mean that the problems will go away. They did not. They didn't go away, but it gave me an anchor to my soul that I always had somewhere to lean onto when the winds of life become so turbulent, when the winds of life become so difficult. I always had Jesus Christ to hold on to. I know I had prayers I could pray. I had, the faith houses I could go. I had a faith community around me that I could reach out to, for help here and there. So overall, I would say for me, those early childhood trauma helped to strengthen my faith. And one of my favorite Bible verses is Romans 8:28, which tells me that everything, the good, the bad, the ugly, everything works together for good to them that love God, to them who are the called according to God's purpose. It's one of my top 7 Bible verses, one of my anchor scriptures. Even till today, I say it to myself regularly when things don't go well. Even when they go well, I know everything is working for my good, no matter what it is. And I can expect good to come out of this. Pain was definitely there. A lot of times I felt pain. There were times I felt depressed. There were times I would lock up myself in the room and cry and wish this did not happen to me, many years ago. But overall, in the midst of those pain, I learned to trust God. I learned to listen for the still small voice of the Holy Spirit telling me it's going to be okay. And I'm going to go through this with you. And yeah, overall, purpose with the third one you mentioned. I discovered purpose very early. And again, my view of pain and my faith helped me to discover purpose early. Like I had my first personal mission statement very early, like my early 20s, like 2021-ish, 22. And, I've refined it again and again and again to the present state over time. Like I said, there were 3 books by Miles Monroe I read when I was 22, which I will never forget, Maximizing Your Purpose, Discovering Your Purpose. And all of that just opened me up to the fact that, oh, everything I've been through is preparing me for something. And I'm glad that, today, every day I see that thing coming to pass more and more every day.
I really relate to that because I feel like being in ministry now that so many things in my life all added up to be components, to be building blocks for what I'm doing today. And I'm sure you're seeing that and you will continue to see it as you go through time, is that all these things add up to something new and better for God, right?
Yes, yes, yes. Everything adds up. Everything adds up. There's no pain that is wasted. I would comfortably say that. The big ones, the small ones, even the tiny things that I see happen every day. One question I always ask myself is, how can I use this? Another question I always ask myself most times when I go through pain is, what does all of this mean? And how can I use this to be a blessing? How can I spin this in a positive way uh, to help me achieve my big picture that God has called me here for?
Let me pause a moment to tell you about options for Christian learning together in a small group. Please visit CecilTaylorMinistries.com to see my instant content products. I call them instant content because a wide range of people have successfully taught my lessons with little preparation, even if they weren't the small group leader. I offer videos and book studies associated with each of my Christian living books. Whether you want to deepen your faith, or live vibrantly, or handle crisis better, or just get ready for Christmas, I have an instant content option for you and your small group. Please visit CecilTaylorMinistries.com and click on Instant Content Products at the top of the page. I'm so confident these will work well for your group. You can watch the first lesson of each study for free. So, check it out. I'm speaking with Dr. Oluwole Babatunde on the Practical Faith Academy podcast. And in your psychiatry practice, Wole, how do you see faith and mental health working together to bring healing?
So faith and mental health all work out well together. I would say there's even a lot of research that shows, especially for some disorders like depression, people would tend to have to anchor their faith on something bigger than them. They tend to do better because it offers you hope, right? One of the core symptoms of depression is hopelessness, which can also happen to a Christian, but overall, like we discussed at the beginning of this podcast, like if you are living the practicality of your faith, you should really not be completely hopeless. So this research shows that those who have something bigger than them that they look up to tend to be less depressed or tend to handle depression better. Overall, the faith is positive and should be something that helps you deal with the adversities of life. Most of the disorders in psychiatry start from one big stressor or the other. Not all the time, but most of the time. Even if you are biologically loaded for depression, for example, typically something will happen that will bring it out. Maybe you lose a job, or you lost a spouse, or you're going through a difficult divorce, or you have financial stress or whatever, or you lose a loved one, something will happen that will push it out. So typically, because of that, faith will help mitigate that thing that will push it out. So faith is positive in that regard overall. It's more positive than negative.
Sure, I have a number of depressed people in my life, and one thing that I hear them say when they're at their darkest moments is they feel like they're in a pit, that there is no hope, that they are worthless. Maybe the world would be better off without them.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure you've run into that with certain people in your practice. So when someone has reached that low point, even faith can seem like a simplistic thing, right? How do you begin to draw somebody back out of the pit?
So drawing someone back, of course, I see this all the time, all the time, all the time. A large proportion, I'm in inpatient psychiatry, and a very large proportion of people I see regularly, they've reached that point where they are so hopeless and they feel life is not worth living. Some of them have attempted suicide. Some of them, they've not attempted, they have plans. Some of them do, they don't have plans, but they just have this passive thing hanging on their head, like, I wish I would go to bed and not wake up, even for those who do not attempt to have a plan. So I would say, just picking a rough figure, maybe 80% to 90% of people I see struggle that much with whatever they are dealing with, like life is not worth living again.
Mm.
So pulling them out from that deep hole, it's a lot of effort. I call it like a triangle or a tripod stand. I would say three. Let me list the three of them. One is lifestyle, two is therapy, three is medication. Maybe in that order. I put lifestyle first because this is something we can do even before we get depressed or when we are not depressed. And when I say lifestyle, I'm referring to things like simple things that we all know, exercises, be on the move every day. That it looks very extremely simplistic, but there's a lot of science behind it that even walking or moving around 30 minutes a day could prevent or help you to deal with depression. Diets, eating healthy diets, this has been billboard. I know we can't just stress this enough. What we eat also can also influence how we feel. It influences sleep, very, very important. Having a good sleep is something that also influences how we feel. Almost all major disorders in psychiatry has sleep affected one way or the other. So these are all little lifestyle things that we can all do even when we are not sick or when we don't have mental disorders. And even when we do, they are things, it means we must even be more proactive to protect them. So those are lifestyle. The second one is therapy. So I'll pick this as number two. I will go to therapy before medications because at very early stages, just talking to somebody might be enough, who is a professional at that. So I would recommend when to start noticing something, depression, anxiety, even early stages of bipolar, borderline or personality issues, you could talk to a therapist and what therapy does, it gives you tools in your pocket that you can pull out at different stages that can be very helpful. And then after that, we now come to number three, which is medications. When lifestyle is not enough, therapy is not enough, then medications truly do help.
Now, you've written a book called Adapt and Advance, a faith based step by step guide to turning trials into triumphs. And in it, you define a 7 point model to build resilience and to live with intention. And I'm kind of wondering where this model came from, because I know in some of the books I've written with a model, I actually looked backward and say, why did I do that well? And I realized I was following a model, but I didn't know it. I wonder how much came out of your background, how much came out of your research and training, and how much kind of came out of your journey and your lived experience. How did you come up with your 7 point model?
I would say it's a mixture of everything you've mentioned. Part of it is, looking back into what has worked. Very early, I've always decided I want my story to be a blessing to people. And one of the ways I make meaning, like I said earlier, is how can I use this to help others to achieve my goal and to help people who are hurting, to help people, you know, that need it, that need to hear it, to get some encouragement for them to go forward. So one of the ways that I've decided to do this is through videos, podcasts, writing of books and stuff. And when I was writing this very first one, so one of the decisions I had to make is, okay, what has worked the most for me despite all of this? I started putting pen on paper, writing. I had a 30-day challenge of completing the book. It started adding up slowly into the map lamp framework. So the 7 points I was able to come up with, which is the framework for the entire book, adapt and advance, is M, which is meaning making. Meaning making, which means like your ability to see that difficult situation as integral to your big purpose in life. And I used Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning. He was one of the Jews that were in the concentration camp many, many years ago that survived it. He was a psychiatrist too. And he said one of the things he noticed, he gave 3 ways we can make meaning from difficulty. One is helping other people by focusing on the big picture. So when you focus on the big picture, you know this is going to turn well at the end of the day. So it's easy for you to help others because you do know at the end of the day, this is going to turn good for me. And even before it sounds good, like I always tell myself, I want to have a lot of people who could testify to the good, to how I survived and the good ways I went through all of this at every stage of my life. So that's one way. Viktor Frankl said, be of help to other people. He did notice that while he was in the concentration camp, those who took extra steps to help others, even in the middle of their pain, they tended to have better outcomes. He noticed that even in the middle of the horrible things they went through, some people were still going all out to encourage other people, to talk about what will happen when they left. He said the book, which I read now, Man's Search for Meaning, he said he wrote that entire book in his head in the concentration camp. Like he told himself, when I get out of here, this is the book I want to write. He didn't have access to a pen or paper, but he kept thinking about it and writing, what would chapter 1 look like? What would chapter 2 look like? What would chapter 3 look like? So that's focusing on the big picture. Despite all the pain, he had a plan that when I get out of this is what I'm going to do. And
Wow.
take it or leave it, that plan came to pass. So, that's one way we make meaning. So whatever I'm going through right now, or whatever you, as a listener to this, whatever you're going through right now, always know that when you are going through and you're in the middle of it, have a plan. Like, when I get through this, how will I use this to be a blessing to other people? So that's number one way to make meaning. Number 2 way is to experience someone or something. Personally, I experience music. I experience reading of books. I love listening to podcasts every morning, or to sermon by pastors every single day. Experiencing things like that. Some people love experiencing nature. Whatever you love to experience could be helpful for you. And the third model is your attitude towards the problem. And for example, one attitude is, this too will pass. Another attitude is, how can I use this? So our attitude to all of those problems matter. And number 4, which I added on, was studying God's word. I believe one best way for me to make meaning in God's word. I have 7 foundational Bible verses. I just told you one of them, Romans 8:28, which is usually the one for Fridays. I have another one, like Jeremiah 29:11 is the one for Saturdays for me, which tells me that I know the plans I have for you, plans of good, not of evil, to give you a hope and a future. So I make meaning from that because I know whatever I'm going through, God has a good plan. That's M. A is actions, which is action, 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 massive action. Whatever you have, you put action behind it every single day. Whatever it is God has called you to do, you've got to put massive action every day. P is planning, and I use the COPS model, which is capture, clarify, organize, prioritize, strategize, simplify. for as ways to plan your day, plan your week, plan your month every single time. And you can put all those little actions into your plan towards the big picture that you believe God has called you to be. L is learning. And I think for me, if I'm going to pick one of the seven, I would pick this one as the most important, because learning kind of opens the door a lot to many other things. Like I said, I decided very early at the age of 22 to read one book every week, and I have no regrets. I've read 52 books for last year, and I'm on number 6 or 7 for this year already, because I know how very I listen. So when I'm driving to work, my commute to work a week is about 7 hours. Listening to one book in 7 hours, most books are about 6 7 hours, so it's just very easy. And when I'm shaving or doing other things, I also listen to books. I drive to other places, I'm always either listening to music, listening to a book, listening to podcasts, listening to a message. So we could use all of this to keep developing our mind and preparing us for the daily challenges that will come our way. And one of the things I learned from Miles Monroe's book very early in my life is I want to go to my graveyard empty in my old age. If I'm going to die at 90, like my desire is, I want to make sure everything God has placed inside of me to be a blessing to my world, I've used it completely. And I even do
Oh,
say to
yes.
myself every day in the morning, I want to go to bed empty every night, so that everything I'm supposed to
Mm.
do today has been done. The lives I'm supposed to touch today have been touched. The lives I'm supposed to bless today have been blessed. So we should live our life like that. The second A is alliance formation. You can't do life alone, do it with others. I talked about those who helped me along my journey, and even now I have helpers every day. And then M is mission statement. Everybody should have a personal mission statement. It could be something simple. I want to be a good father. I want to be a good mother. Or I want to be a good child. Whatever it is that matters to you. And it could be more complex. Mine is a little bit complicated with 3 sections. To be the best version of myself, to fulfill God's purpose. That's section one. As I move from one level of good success and good value to a greater level of good success and good value. That's section two of my mission statement, telling me I'm moving from success to success every day. And wherever I am today, there's still something better for me tomorrow. And the third part of it is I'm to be a blessing to everyone that God has placed on my path, whether family, friends, colleagues, patients, whoever it is. I want to use everything I'm learning and every of my success to be a blessing to others. So that's my own personal mission statement. Everybody should have something, no matter how little it is. And the final one is prayers. I strongly believe in prayers, and I would say my life has been marked by a lot of answered prayers, and even unanswered ones too. Right now, most of my prayers are thanksgiving, because God has done just so much. And like my pastor always says, even if God doesn't do anything again, he has done enough already. So I am grateful for the ones he has done so far to be where I am. And I'm fully persuaded whatever I need is going to make it available for me at every stage. So that's the summary of my book, using the MAPLANP. And I've had a lot of wonderful, incredible testimonies as people go through it.
I'll take a time out to share more about how individuals can benefit from my books. Each instant content product is based on a book designed to help your faith walk. Each of my full books has been honored. 3 of the 4 have received international recognition in Christian writing contests. When you visit my website and click on any book under the Instant Content tab, you can find a link to the book's Amazon page, where you can read glowing reviews about how the book has helped readers from all over the globe. If you're looking for something deeper in your faith life, please visit CecilTaylorMinistries.com for easily consumable book options. It's time and money well spent. Let's return to my conversation with Dr. Oluwole Babatunde. As we begin to close, I want to seek your faith advice. What's the hardest part about putting faith into practice?
At times, God may look distant to us. And at times, we might just be going through, we might go through one event that would make us like forget everything that we've learned. So those moments happen, and it's okay. So we have to come to to terms with the fact that there are times when things will happen that will make everything we believe look like it's all a lie. There's no faith. There's no God. There's none of this. There's none of that. And it's okay for us to feel that way when we go through some things in our lives. When you have those moments when it's like, I didn't see this coming. Oh, with all my preparations, with all my prayers, with all my fastings, if you do believe in fastings, how did I get here? Or how did this happen on my watch? When those moments come, it's a time for us to take a step back and to seek God's face on how best to make meaning for it. As a person of faith, I believe God does speak to us, and everyone knows how God speaks to them. So whichever way God best speaks to you, either from reading the Bible is, I think, the easiest one, or the simplest one, or maybe through the quiet voice of the Holy Spirit, God will come through for you to help you make meaning of those circumstances that are tough that we all go through. Not to minimize everybody's pain. Everybody's pain is unique, is different. And it's just, and that's why we must be able to hear God for ourselves, able to navigate those difficulties for our own selves, because you are the best pastor for yourself. Like when I was told at the age of 13, I was a Christian already, that my father died, the first thing I said, why will both my father and mother give birth to us if they know they would not take care of us, which was just the natural thing. I didn't plan to say that, but that was the thing that came out of my mouth. But over the years after then, I was able to make meaning that although they are not there physically, some of the foundation they laid in my life kept speaking, for me. Of course, I would have wished they were there, and it's still painful. Even now, when I think about it, that I have a kid that are teenagers now, I know it's a lot to invest into a child. I would have really loved if they were available now to at least see, their children succeed and watch us. But, God knows best why everything happened. There are some questions we don't have answers to. But in the middle of everything, we should take a step back when we have those moments that shake our faith to the core and make meaning, at least from God's word, that can hold us and help us to stand firm in the middle of everything.
I have no doubt, Wole, that your parents would be very proud of that boy who turned into a man and everything you've done. Let's wrap up by, would you tell our listeners how they can follow you and find your book? And then I think you're working on some future books as well. So
Yeah.
give us the lowdown here.
Okay, so like I said, the easiest way is to get this book on Amazon. The title is Adapt and Advance. It's green. You see somebody jumping from one cliff to another, just trying to, overcome the adversities of life. That's what the book is about. So if you go to Amazon, type in Adapt and Advance, you can get the book. And in the book, I have an email that you can use to reach me as a person, or just type in, or another email I normally give that is easy is my first name dot last name and outlook.com, which is Oluwole.Babatunde at outlook.com is an email. I have a YouTube channel where I make one video every month. I just released one last night. And finding me is just my name and had 1870. Oluwole Babatunde 1870 will get you to me on YouTube. You could watch, if you subscribe, you could at least have access to one video I release every month. And on Facebook too is my name, Oluwole Babatunde. On Facebook, currently I'm doing a 30-day challenge from my chapter 1, where I post a question daily and people respond. And I always make sure to check your comments and also respond to you. So if that's something that resonates well with you, you could look for me. Just type my name, Oluwole Babatunde, in Facebook. It will pull me up. Or Oluwole Babatunde 1870 on YouTube. And if you get my book, there's an email you can use, or you can reach me by oluwole.babatunde at outlook.com. So those are the ways, I think are the 3 common ways you can easily reach me. And I would like to hear from you. And if you read the book and you are blessed, please leave a review for me on Amazon. It helps other people get encouraged to get it. And when I go through those reviews, at times they move me to tears to see people I don't know being blessed by my book. And that exactly is the reason I wrote the book.
Yeah, I can say as a fellow author, the best thing you can do is buy his book, and the second best thing you can do is review his book so that others can find it as well. So,
Yeah.
Wole, thanks so much for being on the Practical Faith Academy podcast today. We're blessed by your presence, by your story, and by the way you've made meaning about your life. And thank you again for being with us.
Thank you so much, Cecil. I'm very grateful for this opportunity.
Please check the show notes for all the links and access points that Oluwole mentioned during this episode. I talked earlier about my instant content products, and I'd really appreciate you investigating those paid options. I also offer free ways to benefit from my ministry. Subscribe to this podcast, follow Cecil Taylor Ministries on Facebook, Instagram, or Pinterest, but be sure to sign up for my free monthly newsletters, Ministry Connection and Backstage Pass. They combine practical faith tips with updates on the ministry and on my life as well. Read about them in the show notes and how you can receive them. Next up on the Practical Faith Academy podcast in the first half of February, I'll be speaking with Ashley Kincaid. She specializes in parent-child estrangement and has written a book on the topic called After the Locusts. But as you can imagine, her topic extends into how to have peaceful, healing relationships through communication, leading to a fuller life. If you have any broken relationship, or if you want to prevent broken relationships, this will be a good episode for you to hear. Until next time, remember, God sends you into the world every day.